So, some wrestling news has been coming out recently in connection to what a lot of people have been talking about over the past week. That being the Omos Lesnar match and basically Vince McMahon being behind it. Well, apparently more reports have come out that either, depending on who you believe, clarify that to be true, or have come out and said, no, it's not. And if you ask somebody to choose between the two sources, who is the more reliable and believable, they may go with choice A, which is Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp over WrestleVotes. Why? Because Sean Ross Sapp has more connections within the company than, I think anybody would want to admit. And, Sean Ross Sapp has reported, after talking to some higher ups in the company, or at least those connected to the higher ups, then no, Vince is not running things right now. Vince is not running creative or anywhere near creative or anything like that. He's not there. He doesn't have any hearsay, if you will. And that the Omos Brock match was mostly on Triple H, but Brock is the one that said, yeah, I'll go with that over Bray Wyatt. Because, people have their opinions, and a lot of them probably agree that the reason Brock basically said no to Bray Wyatt is because, one, he knew that Bray Wyatt's in a position right now to where, as a character, his shtick is being supernatural, being unpredictable, if you will. And that by being this way, someone like Brock doesn't really stand a chance. And Brock could see the writing on the wall that he goes into a match with Bray, even, tolerates all the hokiness about it, building up to the match, that he's just going to lose. He's going to lose the match. And he doesn't want that. And obviously, dealing with someone like Bray right now does not fit his style. Now, if it was the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt from years ago with the Wyatt family, that would probably be a different story. The point basically is, though, that Brock was the one that said no to the match, showing that he has a bit more pull than we're being led on to believe. So he said no to the match. Obviously, he had other options given to him, put on the table, like Stone Cold was an option as of earlier last year. And Austin was the one that nixed that because he could probably see that, that's not going to be a good matchup to take part in, for second year in a row. Another match proposed to him was Gunther and all that, but, even though that's a dream match on paper people want to see, it's like, what are we going to, a lot of people justifiably argued the fact of, what would it be? Just a 5-minute, 3-minute Gunther match with suplexes and chops and all that? That's it? Then an F5? That's not a good look for Gunther, especially if he's getting a big push along with several other superstars post-WrestleMania. Then you had an unPacific talent that was being optioned to Brock for Mania, but no one knows who that could have been. My assumption, my speculation is it was going to probably be Braun Breaker. That's my assumption, my speculation, is it was going to be Braun Breaker. The match with Lashley, which looked like they were going to head towards Mania, got, shelved indefinitely for some odd reason. And I guess being left with no other choice, they went with Omos. Now, reports from, places like WrestleVotes, again, depending on who you follow and believe, has stated that somebody very powerful behind the scenes pushed the match through. And they followed this up by putting like a little GIF picture, if you will, of Vince McMahon. Now, look, as I've said before, everybody has a right to their opinion. Everybody has a right to, kind of express how they feel when it comes to something like this, especially after dealing with years and years and decades and time after time of Vince booking. You see something like this and you're like, yeah, this has got Vince written all over it. And by extension, along with the returns of Trish and Lita, it's like this has got Vince written all over it. But does it? Does it? You see, if there's one thing I've talked about, and others, I guess, watching what I'm saying, or watching and hear what I'm saying, I'm kind of agreeing too, because others feel, the same way, or kind of see it that same way too, is that maybe Triple H realizes that Vince is someone that gets tempted very easily. Vince is someone that gets tempted very easily. And even though he's had discussions with Vince on creative ideas to where he just gets Vince's input and that's it, no other, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? No other influence outside of that. He's just getting like his input, his suggestions and all that, because, he has the final say. I know, obviously he realizes that even with that, even by having these discussions on input, for creative ideas and all that, between him and Vince, Triple H realizes that, hey, that's tempting him. That's tempting Vince to want to get back into creative, even though people have pointed out numerous times, like I have, that legally he can't really do that. That if he does that, he's going to be breaking the SEC guidelines. So he can't really do that. Now, with that said, a lot of people, like myself, have agreed, and I've mentioned it many times, that Triple H, knowing that even through these little input discussions with Vince, that it's tempting Vince to want to try to get back into creative somehow, so he's going to throw him a bone once in a while. Like, okay, I'll book this match because I know it's something Vince would book. Or call up this legend and that legend in time for Mania to participate in the event because I know that's what Vince would do. And lo and behold, that's what we're seeing. That's just my feeling. That I believe Triple H, he's throwing Vince a bone by saying, I'll book this match and I'll book these two matches because I know, these are something that, Vince would do, Bobby Lashley, Bray Wyatt, Brock Lesnar, Omos, as well as call up Lita and Trish, to come back in time for Mania because he knows that's what Vince would do. And by doing that, he's throwing Vince a bone to soothe that temptation, to soothe it, so that he doesn't get this mindset of, trying to come back and take over creatively. That's what I believe is going on. He's throwing him these bones to soothe his temptation, if you will. He's basically, it's like he's throwing him these bones to soothe his temptation, but it's almost like he's throwing him a bunch of cigars to smoke. A bunch of cigars to smoke that he knows Vince is going to have to take his time in smoking and everything because, they're so big or gigantic or whatever, or they're so long, if you will. I know that's a strange comparison, but that's what he's doing. He's throwing him all these little cigars, if you will, to kind of allow him to soothe his temptation to want to smoke, if you will, constantly or smoke eternally when it comes to WrestleMania. As strange as a comparison or wording as that might have been. But that's kind of what's going on here, in my opinion, that he's just doing these things because he knows that's what Vince would do, and he's doing it to soothe that temptation, because when you talk to somebody and you want to get their input on something that they used to have a huge hand in, that they're going to potentially, and this is the truth, potentially want to, start getting tempted, start getting that, creative feeling, or start getting that fluid, that feeling, that urge again, rumbling inside of them. Being that person that's now in their position that they once had, that the only way you could soothe that temptation, that urge, is to do something that they would do. So that urge, that temptation, is, I guess you could say, sedated, if you will, sedated for the time being. So that's what I see going on right now with Vince. I see, Triple H giving him these kind of matches to Mania and these returns in time for Mania because he knows that's what Vince would do, and he's doing it because he realizes by getting these input discussions with Vince, it's tempting him. It's tempting him to want to make a return. So that's why I think when Brock went and complained, either to Vince, depending on how you feel, how you look at it, when Brock went and complained to Vince, or he went to Triple H and said, no, I'm not doing the Bray Wyatt crap, Triple H probably argued with him and said, look, this is what people want. This is WrestleMania worthy. And Brock was probably like, yeah, I understand that, but I'm not working with this Bray Wyatt. This Bray Wyatt's too hokey, too silly, too cartoonish, if you will. I want to work with someone that I know I'm gonna, beat, if you will. I'm gonna have put over me, or I could put over respectfully, knowing that, hey, we come from the same mold. And Triple H probably was like, okay, fine. Who do you, it's like, okay, fine. I guess the only option is to go with, something that Vince would do. Or, maybe Triple H, after talking with Brock, said, okay, I'll get back to you, see what I can do. Probably called Vince up. What do you suggest? Told him the situation. And Vince said, well, you know what? If Brock doesn't want to face Bray, and he's just about the money right now, give him a match that and I know, is an easy payday for him. Give him that kind of match. And that's probably what happened. And maybe he asked, and maybe he has a suggestion. Like, who do you think? And Vince probably thought about it and said, well, it's up to you. But if I was there, I would go with Omos. Because it's an easy victory for Brock. And you get that, they get that one big spectacular WrestleMania moment of Brock doing what no one else could do. And that's F5ing Omos. So there you go. That's my opinion. My opinion is he probably asked for that suggestion. Vince threw it to him and said, hey, look, you want to go with that? That's fine. And everything. I'll just throw it on the table for you. But it's up to you. And Triple H probably knew that when Vince probably brought that up, that Vince would probably do what he could, if he ever got back to him and said, I can't come up with any other ideas. Triple H probably knew that the moment Vince suggested Omos, that was part of temptation, and that's why Triple H went with Omos, to soothe that temptation. Because the moment that idea came out, that name probably came out of Vince's mouth during those input discussions, Triple H knew, Vince is getting tempted, I'll just do that match, easy payday for Brock, be done with it. And let him go home for the next couple of months or something. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I know it sounded like I just rambled there a bit on it, but that's kind of the gist I'm getting from it. But yeah, you could think and believe that Vince was behind it. Again, depending on who you side with, source-wise, reliable source-wise. But in the end, it was Brock that nixed it. And yes, do a lot of people take the blame for this being nixed? Absolutely. Brock should take the blame because, look, you had some various options, some maybe not so, I guess you could say Mania worthy for someone like Brock, but you did have other reliable options. Like Gunther was a good one. Bobby Lashley in a Lion's Den MMA match was another one. You had your options. So, yeah, Brock does deserve to take some of the blame there. But so does Triple H, because Triple H, needs to show, hey, I'm running things. I'm the man in charge. You're going to go with what we planned for, and that's it. He needs to take the blame for not putting his foot down. Now, legally, maybe he couldn't because maybe Brock contractually has something in his contract that states he can nix certain matches. And, okay, fine. But still, it's like Triple H should at least, look at this situation right now, and basically reconfigure his strategy and be like, you know what? After Mania, this BS ends. I'm going to put my foot down, and whatever we get planned, storyline-wise, long-term and all that for people, they're going to go through with it, whether they like it or they don't. That's what he needs to start doing. And I guarantee you this Brock situation is going to make him want to do that. Vince, if you want to put the blame on Vince, Vince too does need to take some of the blame, because if he did, push for this to happen, or if he did, suggest from an input perspective to Triple H, Omos as a potential opponent if Brock doesn't want to face anybody else, he does need to take some of the blame because, one, he shouldn't really be suggesting anything, period. He really shouldn't be suggesting anything, period. But if it is just, hey, just give me your input, I'll decide what to do from there, that's another thing. I guess that's kind of like a loophole, if you will. But yeah, if he's the one that suggested Omos, even through input discussions, with Paul, then he should take some of the blame too. But I think at the end of the day, a big lesson is going to be learned here for Paul Levesque, Triple H. And that lesson is he's the one running things. He's the guy running things. And if he has the final say, then what he says goes, whether you like it or not. And whether you like it or not, you have to find a way to make it work. Period. So yeah, apparently Brock's the one that nixed it. Various reports are saying Vince pushed, nixed it, but Brock's the one that nixed, the Bray Wyatt match in favor of Omos. You got various reports saying that Vince was the one that pushed it through. You got other reports saying that's not true, and that maybe it was. And I believe, honestly, if I was to choose a side, I know both are very reliable, but I would say Sean Ross Sapp and his team at Fightful are more reliable and believable, because honestly, they've had. Look, they've had a few hiccups here and there, there's no doubt, but they have constantly hit it out of the park when it comes to information, behind the scenes and all that. So I guess you could say I'm more intended to want to believe, Sean Ross Sapp and his crew than anybody else. That's just my opinion. And I do kind of feel that, yeah, Vince is not behind this and that it's mostly all on Brock and Triple H. That's my feeling. If I'm to expand on that, I think what happened, and Sean Ross Sapp might agree with me on this, maybe not, that Triple H, he did mention, he does talk to Vince for input, suggestions. I think Triple H may have went to Vince, called him and, asked for suggestions and input of how to deal with this, and Vince probably just threw out Omos's name as a possible candidate in case nothing else works. And, that's probably what happened. He probably went to Bobby and said, Bobby, we're going to have to put you with Bray right now because Brock doesn't want to face Bray, and, you and Brock at Mania, right now we don't know. I'm sure Triple H went to Bobby Lashley and said, look, we got a program with you. We got to program you with Bray for right now at Mania because Brock doesn't want to do it, even though everybody wants to see it. We got a program with you with Bray instead, and we're going to put Brock with Omos. And maybe they find a way to get them to all intertwine. We don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah. Triple H's first WrestleMania is looking a lot harder than it seems to be to book in some areas because certain people, talent, if you will, has more influence and say in what matches they're part of than I think any of the other superstars in that roster do. But, we talk about Vince McMahon. Everybody's saying that he's responsible for this. Well, Vince McMahon, he was in the news twice this week. The first bit of news that Vince was part of outside of the whole Brock situation and the possible involvement there is the WrestleMania poster. Now, everybody was talking about this when it hit the internet, that, you have these mock-up banners and posters all across the Los Angeles area, Inglewood area. And on them, you have pictures of the talent that's going to be involved, marquee mock-up posters of certain matchups that are going to be, part of the event. And here, at the bottom, since they're made up to be movie posters and all that, like let's say, this here, they're made up to be something like that. On the bottom, and everything was like, you see what George Lucas's name is right there? Like, well, it says it's written and directed. Well, that's kind of pushed to the side in these, pushed to the middle in these mock-up posters. And originally the mock-up poster with Roman on there for WrestleMania 39 said directed by Vince McMahon. And that threw a lot of people into a whirlwind. A lot of the IWC, YWC, JD from NY206, just Alex, other people, into a whirlwind because that was more confirmation that Vince is back in creative somehow. If not fully in creative, but doing it in a way that's more stealth-like. Like, yeah, he knows he's not supposed to be there, so he's going to do it this way. He's going to find a way to be involved this way. Well, apparently WWE saw that the entire wrestling community, the whole wrestling world, if you will, exploded on that. They probably saw that a lot of talent that came back because of Triple H, and not because of Vince, but because of Triple H, saw that and started to get worried. They probably heard about the rumors that certain talent, one talent, another talent said that, hey, they believe Vince was back in charge of creative. WWE basically retracted those posters. Yeah, they retracted them, and instead, basically instead in the director's credit, they put, instead of Vince McMahon, they put a scrambled version of the WrestleMania name, basically to save face. Now, some people might say, oh, that's Bush League on their part to do that. And it might be, but if you're on the verge of trying to get TV rights deals for this company for the next year or so, potentially selling the company, which we're talking about in a moment, to somebody, the question obviously, is, why would you want to risk that by putting somebody's name that has all these allegations and lawsuits heading his way, because of what he's done and what he did to get back in the company? Why would you want to risk that by putting his name in the directorial credits? You wouldn't. You wouldn't want to do that. So basically, WWE, again, like I say, eternally saw that and realized, oops, we need to fix that. Took those posters down, those banners down, and then replaced them with basically identical ones, with the only difference, like I said, with Vince, the only difference being that Vince McMahon's name was taken out of the directorial credits, and instead replaced, I should say, with a scrambled version of the WrestleMania name. So, yeah, that's one bit of news that Vince was in outside of the whole possible involvement with Brock's match at Mania. The other bit of news that I just alluded to was the sale of the company. Because on one of the WrestleNomic podcasts, they went back and forth on, potential sale of WWE, which Nick Khan projected when he was on CNBC a couple weeks ago would be within the next couple of months. Although that tune of his might have changed, especially when this price tag got revealed, and the price tag is that Vince wants $9 billion for the company. Now, I talked about this in a video too, and a lot of people are talking about it as well. Like, this is way too much money. Endeavor, who right now says they're not in the running to do it, although they might just be saying that to, cover, to cover the butts. In other words, to try to keep the potential purchase of the company a secret, so that no one, online leaks it out. It's the same with Comcast and Amazon and Netflix and all them, and Disney. They might be trying to keep it on the low end, so so that potential sales information doesn't get out and everything. But yeah, Vince McMahon, Endeavor, basically says they're not doing it. They're not going to be able to do it, even though there's been constant differences in opinion on that from within their own house. Comcast, CNBC, one of the correspondents on that CNBC talk show or business show that Nick Khan was being interviewed on said that there was no interest, although that's just his opinion. That's just his opinion, if you will. And there are other potential buyers on the table. There are other potential buyers on the table. But the $9 billion price tag is is one that really kind of took a lot of people off guard, took a lot of people by surprise, because it's like, yeah, you have your potential buyers, but now you're asking them for something that is, well, if you have the money, is reasonable. Like Amazon has the money, whether we like it or not. The PFI of Saudi Arabia has the money, which again, I do believe the people that run the PFI are not the same as their countrymen. I think the more acceptable, the more willing, to adapt with the times, move forward and everything. I think the more receptive of that than the other countrymen. So that's what I feel. That's what I believe. But anyway, you have those two potential, giants, to purchase the company. But now this discussion going around of whether or not maybe the reason we got this $9 billion price tag, put out there for the sale of the company was because maybe it's a ploy. I mean, WrestleNomics talked about this, like I said, in the podcast, and I'm sure everybody else has talked about it. Even JD mentioned it yesterday on his Off the Script. JD even mentioned it, and even questioned whether or not the Saudis would even want to buy this. And questioned whether or not Vince would be crazy enough to sell to the Saudis even if they took it. And, here's the thing. I'm glad some people are starting to realize that, hey, even though, Amazon has the money to do it, if you will, and even the PFI of Saudi Arabia has money to do it, that, I'm kind of happy that now realizing that even they, as businesses, as corporations, as funders, if you will, that even they realize, for them, they could do it, but that's still a huge chunk of change, taken out of the bank account. Like you could have, put yourself in this predicament. Put yourself in this predicament. You have money to want to pay bills with, right? And calculation-wise, that if you have all your bills lined up to be automatically paid within the first couple of days of the month, that a good chunk of that's going to be gone. Okay? Like your energy, let's say, energy on average is $50. Okay, you expect that $50 to be gone. Although I know that's not, even though energy being that cheap would be a miracle, but you get the idea. But, let's say your energy bill is $50 to $200. Okay, you expect that gone. And then let's say automatically your cable, your phone, your internet and all that is connected together. That's another $300, $400 you expect gone. Okay, that's gone. That's $600. So you expect that, right? And then let's say, your rent, if you're renting, or your mortgage. Let's say that's about, let's say that's about $1,500, $2,000, a month, that you're paying. You expect that gone. So that's like 24, not 24, that's basically about, that's about 2,500 gone, right? So that. Even if you, and here's the thing, along with your other amenities, like let's say your streaming services and all that, you're looking maybe just roughly at an average of $2,800, almost $3,000, right? Almost $3,000. And you would say to yourself, well, I got the money to do this because I got like 10,000 in there or 9,000 in there. 3,000 ain't gonna hurt, and I'm still gonna get paid. But guess what? In the end, it does, because let's say you have 9,000. All of a sudden, that 9,000 is gone to 6,000, and then you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for groceries, you name it. Maybe treat yourself to fast food or something like that, or pizza, whatever. You basically are gonna have a lot of money taken out. Because even if you get left with 6,000, that 6,000 go down to 5,000, go down to 4,000, depending on what you're doing, and what you're spending it on and stuff. So, using that as an example, you got to look at it from, everybody else's perspective that financially could do that. Spend the $9 billion to purchase WWE. Yes, you can have a lot of money, if you will, but even if they're in the trillions, that $9 billion is going to take a huge chunk. It is. So let's say you're in the 1 trillion, that 9 billion, boom, drops you back into the billions in a big way. Probably almost back into the millions. Or let's say you have trillions of dollars, like let's say the Saudis, if you will, or Amazon. Let's say you have your revenues in that 12 trillion range, as you say, the 12 trillion range. That 9 billion may not seem much or seem like much, but still, you will see a massive cut in your revenue. A cut in your revenue that basically changes, your financial trajectory, because everybody that's invested in you, and you invested in them, expect you to be at a certain level. They expect you to be at a certain level. So that $9 billion, even though to someone that's in, has that financial structure to make it happen, purchase wise, that cuts big time into who they are. And honestly, it does feel like maybe Vince did this because he doesn't really want to sell the company. He just, as some people are predicting, just did it so he can get back into power, have an excuse to get back into power by saying, oh, I'm going to sell the company. And then maybe behind people's back, they think I'm going to sell the company. But they are mistaken. I put that $9 billion tagline because I know nobody will pay it. I win again. That's what people are perceiving Vince is probably doing right now, just laughing behind everybody, laughing when everybody's back is turned, because he basically, made them believe he's going to sell the company, but as soon as he puts this price tag out there, it's like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen, as quickly as, he wants, even with the PFI of Saudi Arabia, so that's not going to, so yeah, whether or not it's a ploy, we don't know, because again, now you have a lot of people, wondering, whether or not the Saudis would even take it because of that money, because of that price tag. Because despite the fact that they have trillions of dollars, that $9 billion can, basically leave a big gash, in that trillions of dollars body, body of wealth, if you will. It could leave a huge gash. And I don't think even they would want that. And then again, you also have to deal with the fact that you have the lawsuits, that are imminent, at Vince right now. You have these allegations as well that could still rise up again and stuff like that. And you got the future WWE, on the line, TV rights rise going into 2024. So there's a lot going on here. And obviously, you have to really think now, did Vince just, like WrestleNomics put it, did Vince just do this as a ploy, to get himself back into power the way he did with, basically without, with the intention that, he was never going to sell in the first place? We don't know. But yeah, apparently, it seems a lot of people are coming out and saying that the $9 billion price tag that they believe even the Saudis wouldn't, go for it because it would leave that huge gash, in their bank accounts, if you will, that maybe it was nothing more than a ploy by Vince to get back into power. And you know what? If it is, and these people that are these shareholders and all them that are hitting Vince with these lawsuits hear about it and, kind of thinking, hey, that does kind of make sense. That's not going to look good for him in the long run either. It's not. It really isn't. So you have to wonder really what Vince was thinking. Like, was he just, so desperate to get back into power that he had to make up something to ensure he got back in? We don't know. But I guarantee you, if it is a ploy, he is basically playing with ultimate fire that's going to come back to bite him with the SEC guidelines, the shareholders, and everything. He's going to have a lot coming back to bite him and bite him in the wrong way. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to come on here. Wait a minute. I do have one more story to talk about. Oh, you guys are going to love this. I was just about to leave, but you got one more story. You guys are going to love this one. You see, apparently, Eric Bischoff, on his 83 weeks with Conrad, went off on Dave Meltzer. Yeah, he went off on Dave Meltzer. Mainly because of the end of the year awards that Dave put out. He went off on Dave Meltzer and everything in a big way. I'll put the clip at the end here, but he went off on him in a big way to where essentially, one of the things that ticked him off or pissed him off was Dave Meltzer calling Tony Khan Book of the Year when the way the company was, going through a lot of craziness last year was, with him at the helm, could be anything further than the truth. So, yeah, Eric went off on Meltzer. Again, I'll provide the link to the video at the end here. But yeah, let's just say he did not hold anything back. And Conrad, who is friends with Meltzer, did agree with some of the things Eric said, but also tried to defend Meltzer. Yeah, you guys got to check this out. But it is an interesting watch. It really is. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I really want to say right now. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section and in the live chat. You'll also get a podcast version of this, audio podcast version of this at BW Rosses Discussions and all your favorite audio podcast platforms except for Pandora. Also, check me out at Venmo at Brian-Romer-2, Cash App at BW Rosses98, Patreon.com/BW Rosses at $1, $3 tier. VENMO at BW Rosses as well. Also check out the Teespring store by clicking on the icon in the upper left hand corner of the screen.